So the basic idea for the colloquium is that our students have spent 3 semesters of DWC learning about how civilization has developed. And so we thought it might be interesting to spend some time taking it all apart. As long as there have been people, they've been concerned about the end of the world. It's part of human nature to be fascinated by our own fragility. And I think that is ultimately what the course is about.
I would say that this is an apocalyptic situation. It's a serious and significant disruption of what people are used to, of normality, of norms, of structures, and all of that is going on right now.
You know, if we were to talk about capital A apocalypse, we're really talking about the end of the world. The coronavirus is certainly not the end of the world. It's not even the end of humanity. But there are smaller apocalypses, things that impact a certain community in a particularly destructive way, or in a way that kind of changes the course of their life experience.
Much of the energy of it and much of what is causing people to feel are the same sorts of things we would expect in a, quote, real apocalypse.
But in answer to the question, are we in the middle of an apocalypse? The short answer is no, we're not in the middle of an apocalypse, but it certainly does feel like an apocalyptic moment.
Our class was assigned to read a novel, Station 11, about a flu epidemic, and it was really interesting to read something that was so similar to what's going on now. It was really interesting to make comparisons and see how the epidemic in this novel was similar to the pandemic that we're facing right now.
And when we first began teaching the course, this was entirely a thought experiment. It was a way of thinking, well, what if this terrible thing would happen and wipe out most of humanity? It's certainly unsettling and strange and interesting to now be teaching Station 11, a novel about a flu pandemic in the middle of a global flu pandemic.
Someday something like that may come along, and we need to be far better prepared for it than we are now.
Right, because a year ago, few people would have thought that we would be in the situation that we're in now.
We had an optional assignment in our apocalypse class to write about our experience in the coronavirus pandemic and about it in the outside world and how we dealt with being quarantined in our family.
This is something that is changing it day to day, and I think there is value from a kind of historical point of view, or at least the point of view of personal history, of recording in the moment what's been going on and how one is responding to it.
Start to collate them together, even though they're very individual. I think a continuing theme is what people miss is obviously routine, things that they can rely on, and other people.
We're in this unique situation where everyone in the world essentially is going through the same crisis. That's very few times in human history when that's been true. And so in a sense that everyone is the same, but as Dr. Morgan just said, in a sense, we all are experiencing our own very individual crisis, our own individual apocalypse, if you like.
It's a record of something that even in the middle of it, we know it's important. We know that this is something historical that doesn't happen every other week.
It was a good opportunity to reflect on what was going on in the outside world and to figure out how to deal with quarantine.
And so the second function of the coronavirus journal is to record that personal experience of the coronavirus, and hopefully to allow the students who choose to write it to wrestle with their feelings, to help them perhaps cope better with what they're feeling and what they're seeing. And the most perhaps positive thing that I hope that students might take away from a course like this is a new appreciation for what an incredible thing civilization is.
One of the things that I am continually surprised by is both how fragile and how resilient human beings are. Both. That how easily human life can be snuffed out, but at the same time, how incredibly resilient on all sorts of levels that human beings are too.
An apocalypse is not generally something that you can imagine until it happens. Mm-hmm. And then suddenly you have to cope. It allows us, I think, to structure our priorities in a way that helps us appreciate what we have before we lose it.